All right. Let's get going. So I'm going to have a little bit of I'm going to share some things today. I'm pretty uncomfortable sharing personal stories because I always feel like, like, look at what I did or whatever. But I want to share some stories today to inform where I'm coming from with what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to share a little bit of my background with you, and then I'm going to get into sort of some of the models that I've used. And here's the sort of headline. I've worked in 5 different industries, and in each time I was in a role that needed to do work and bring in revenue, right? And when you bring in revenue, you're a salesperson, right? And so just like you have to generate business and then do the business. And I've gone into all sorts of different industries, and within 12 months, been able to dramatically outperform people that have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years. And sometimes they get kind of resentful about it. And I want to share what I do with you, right? It is still a difficult market and probably going to be a difficult market. We were all ruined for the last couple of years because loans were just coming from the sky. And you could like delude ourselves with, oh, if I do good service, I'll keep getting loans, and social media and all these different things that like felt like they were generating business. It wasn't you, it was the market, right? So as long as you just did well enough and had a couple of relationships, you got loans. Hey, suddenly that's not working so well, is it? Suddenly it's not working so well. So it's okay with you guys, I'm gonna share a little bit of story. So like you guys, anybody feel like they constantly have their back against the wall and they're punching out? Right? When you eat what you kill, you're constantly always on the verge of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go broke. So like I've been living in that for a long time. And even though it's not real, we all feel that every day, right? You feel that every day. We don't have the paycheck that just keeps coming in, right? You guys got to make your own payroll. I got to make payroll for everybody. So I went to Cornell, and I graduated in 2009. And prior to that, everybody was getting like 10 job offers, right? So I didn't really focus on getting a job. I went to Europe and traveled with my now wife. I played polo. So then I start to go try to get serious about getting a job, and the crisis happens and there are no jobs, right? I reach out to a couple companies and like don't get responses. I go to the job fair, nobody's there. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's spring of 2009. I don't have a job. Thankfully, I got lucky, and I had done a good job in school. I knew the guy, the sort of director of the real estate program and the MBA program. And he's like, Rich, why don't you do your MBA? And you can run the real estate review. I'll give you a scholarship. And I'm like, all right, I'll hang out for another couple of years. But I was like, I'm not going to repeat the same mistake. I'm taking 2 years to get the best job I possibly can. I screwed around in college, I screwed around by not focusing on getting a job. I'm just going to this is 2 years to get the best job I can. And I got a great piece of advice. A friend of mine's dad was over, and I'll say, I'm having a hard time. I reach out to people and I don't get a response back. And he's like, Rich, he's like, dude, he was an executive in real estate. He said, you know how many emails I get a day? And I said, I don't know, 30. He's like, 500, And he's like, it's impossible for me to get back to the really important emails that I have to get back to, let alone the random kid at Cornell that's emailing me like, hi, I need a job. So it's not personal, but like, you got to keep reaching out until you get somebody like me on the phone. I was like, oh, that changed everything for me at that moment, because it went from when I would, perfectly craft an email to somebody and they didn't get back to me, I was like, they don't like me, or I screwed my content up. What he taught me was it's constant, relentless attacks. And it's not about you personally, and you have nothing to lose. This is back in, remember yellowpages.com? So I was like, I'm going to get into real estate private equity. So I said, I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to get into real estate private equity. Now, that's a very important thing that I just said, because I narrowed, right, my pool down. I created the pond that I was fishing in. New York City, real estate private equity. Okay. how many real estate private equity companies are there in New York? Well, yellowpages.com, and you look around, you figure it out. It's like 60. So suddenly this thing that went from like, where do I start? I don't even know how to do this. It went to like, oh, there's 60 companies that I want to work for. That's called, I created a leads group, right? I had my leads, 60 of them. Figured out who was there. Now, I didn't have LinkedIn wasn't like it is today. So I literally would have to call their 800 number, talk to the assistant that answered, and work my way through it. So I do it. I call, email, call, email, call, email, call, email. And I was a little bit of a fibber because I would say that, hey, I'm going to be in New York on Friday. Are you available if I stop by to introduce myself? Now, I wasn't going to be in New York. That was a little fit, right? So I'd have to catch a bus. If somebody was like, yeah, Rich, I have to catch a bus at 5 in the morning, get down to New York City, go meet with the person, and take the bus back up to Ithaca. I get a job, right? I mean, I did 2 hours a day, every single day, get a job. Finish that job. Don't want to do real estate private. Now, remember, I took it like a sales process, right? Do the same thing. And I said, well, I think I want to go into investment banking. That's the hardest job to get. Goldman Sachs is the hardest place to do it. I'm going to go get a job at Goldman Sachs. Same exact process. Started to map out people who worked at Goldman and started to reach out to them, chased them down, got face-to-faces, boom, get my job. Notice what I do. I define what I want. I create a contact list, and I attack that contact list. Right. I get down to Florida. So I leave Goldman, I go work for a semi-bankrupt developer in Florida. And this is where things really start to turn on for me. I went because the guy was extremely wise. So this is the first piece. And I'm with him, and I go, how do you know so much? You're a South Florida real estate developer that like, you seem to have an answer for everything. And he didn't have an answer. He had like models and ways to do things and deep understanding. How do you know so much? He goes, Rich, I've been reading a book a week for 30 years. It's like, I want to be like you. Okay, I got to read a book a week for 30 years. I'd read maybe like 8 books a year and thought I was pretty good. So I got rid of my Wi-Fi, got rid of my TV, and I worked out, and I read. You know, different stage of life, a little more difficult now. And there was like 500 books that I got from him to read. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, how am I ever going to do this? You know what the problem is now? I've read them all. Finding the next book gets really hard once you get through those 500. So we had semi-vacant shopping centers that we needed to lease up. Okay. And if you get them leased, you get more revenue. If you get more revenue, you can refinance them and you can survive because we were defaulting on all the debt because we couldn't make the payments. Had to lease them. We had a leasing team. And they did normal leasing activities and they achieved normal leasing results. Right? So I had to figure out, how do you turbocharge leasing a shopping center? It's kind of the same thing you guys do. You have to go find tenants that want to do it, get them signed up, sign the deal, move on to the next. What do you do? Any ideas? What would you do? So I started focusing on the leasing agent's activities, right? The problem was, this was still the bad market, 2011, 2012. The conversion ratios were too low that we could, even with sending the team out every single day and making phone calls and doing everything, they couldn't get in front of enough people. Kind of like what your problem is, right? Like the realtors don't have enough deals, right? So you have to talk to so many realtors to try to get a deal. And you're like, my conversion ratio is so slow. So here's what I did. I started to really read, and I found a couple of books that talked about you have to create a demand generation model. And I learned about the universal sales process. And so today's, I'm going to introduce you to some of these ideas. So he said you have to figure out who you want to work with, and then figure out a passive way to stay in constant contact with those people until they say, yes, I'll talk to you. Then once they say, I'll talk to you, they become a prospect. Then you got to sell, right? Now you got to convert them. And so thankfully I was very good at converting. And I studied. I know all the techniques and all the sales process and negotiation, solution finding, needs analysis, overcoming objections, all that stuff, right? So I became a student of sales. So I had 2 models. One, define who I want to work with. figure out how to get in touch with them. And then once they say, yes, I'm interested, be a professional salesperson to run them through a sales process and convert them, right? Because my goal was like, if I have somebody that says I'm interested, I'm getting them. No matter what, I'm getting them. All right. So what did I do? So back to yellowpages.com. All right. So I had a salon spa thing. Tenant skipped out in the middle of the night. They personally guaranteed the lease and they're like, I can't make payments. They left. So now I've got a salon that's all built out, all the equipment in it, nobody paying rent. Go to Yellow Pages. Everybody ever hear of a thing called Fiverr? It's like a 1099. You can like hire people. You can bid jobs out in Ukraine and India and the Philippines. I didn't know how to write scripts or anything like that, but I said, okay. It was like $30. I paid somebody in the Philippines to go through yellowpages.com for everybody in Florida that every salon's name and phone number and address, right? Just manually type it all up in a spreadsheet. So then, you guys remember when you were in school, your kids were in school, when it was a snow day, some of us in the north, you'd get the automated voice phone call, ring, 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 you answer it, and they're like, hello, this is Bear Tavern. We're closed tomorrow from blah, blah, blah. Now, if you don't answer, they would leave you a voicemail. I was like, oh, interesting. So there's technology out there that can do this. So I Google around, and I found it's called like Education Telephonic Services or something like that. Telephonic services. To use them, you had to be a school. Crap. I get us licensed as a real estate school in order to help people get their real estate licensed. Once I'm licensed as a real estate school, I sign up with the phone service. This is pre, a lot of text. This is back in 2012. So now I have a list of 1,000 salons, right? Which to call each, first I started calling them, but it took forever. I'm like, I don't have time to do this. So I waited till about 10 o'clock. I recorded a voicemail. Hey, this is Rich Weidel. I run leasing over at Woolbright Development. I'm so sorry that I missed you. Hey, I'm calling because I've got a tenant that skipped out. I got a fully built out salon. I thought you might be interested. I got a couple people interested in it already. But if you'd like to take a look at it or talk about it, please give me a call back tomorrow before this goes. I waited till like 10 o'clock at night when they're all closed, sent out 1,000 phone calls using the service and left 1,000 voicemails. I got back like 9 phone calls the next morning. Leased it. My leasing team had been trying for like 6 months. I was like, oh shit. Dog groomer, same thing. Massage place, same thing. Keep going with it. Lease everything up essentially by myself using this model. What was crazy to me, I didn't use any special technology. I didn't I'm not a computer programmer. I'm not anything. I couldn't get the leasing agents to follow the model. They still thought that when I asked them what's your sales model? Happy hours and social media and this thing and that thing. I was like, yo, I've discovered this thing that works that you can do as well that's essentially free. Get over to I leave there, I go off on my own. So I'm gonna buy a shopping center. I'm gonna raise money, and I'm gonna raise money. I'm gonna buy a shopping center. So I spent like $5,000 for CoStar, and I got a database of every single shopping center in New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania. There's like 800 of them. The police have the laptops mounted in their cars. You know what I'm talking about? I bought one of those things and I mounted it. I had a Jeep Cherokee at the time. I spent 6 months and drove to every single shopping center, 800 of them in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I could hit like 40 in a day. And I was figuring out where there was vacancies because I wanted to buy a shopping center that had high vacancies because I knew that I could lease it up better than anybody else. So find one. They want 8 or 9 million. I offer 6. They're like, okay. Said you need to put $500,000 down. I only had $50,000. I convince them to take my $50,000. And they say, cool, but it's completely non-refundable. You're never getting this money. If you don't buy it, you're not getting it back. No contingencies. And if you don't close, you're never doing another deal in New Jersey. It was the Cushman and Wakefield guys. They're like, we will completely cut you out. So it's like best day in the world in that morning. Then in that night, I'm lying in bed with my wife and I'm like, oh my gosh, our entire life savings and I've got no options. So what do? build a list of everybody that's a real estate investor in the Mid-Atlantic area and start pummeling them. Sure enough, find an equity investor. Cool. They're going to put up to $2.5 million. Now I need $4.5 million in debt or whatever it was. Put a list of 25 banks that do commercial real estate lending in the area. Pummel them. M&T's like, we'll do it. Put the deal together. Okay. I wind up taking over a real estate company. We have to recruit real estate agents. Oh, man, we're only hiring like 50 new. We wanted to hire about 100 newbies a year. We were only hiring 50, right? So we weren't going to hit sort of you have attrition as people fall out and retire and different things like that. We had a real estate school, right? So it's a great feeder program. You get people licensed and you hire them out of the school, but we can only get like 5 people per class. What do you do? Remember Groupon? We start because I couldn't build an online marketing platform, right? Like I mean I could, but it wasn't my thing. I didn't know how to do it. I was like, oh. So we charged like $1.75 for the real estate school, I think. So I marked it up to $350 and gave a 50% discount on Groupon. We start getting 50 people per class. Went from 5 to 50. And I'm getting the same revenues because I just doubled the price when I put it onto Groupon. We were hiring 50 people. My goal was 100. We got to 150 people a year hired that way. All right. Princeton Mortgage. You know, we had some JVs. They ended. There's no loans. There's no loan officers. I come in. I have to hire people. I don't know anybody at all in the mortgage industry. So I needed to hire a sales leader. What do? How do you get a list of sales leaders at the time? I remember reading in the news about, remember the people do the news company organizations, but there was no MMI, there was no online services yet. Freedom of Information Act requests. Everybody's ever read about that, the FOIA, right? Like you can, so we did a Freedom of Information Act request to the state of New Jersey and state of Pennsylvania for the data of every licensed branch manager. Boom, takes like 3 months. I get back every licensed branch manager in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But I don't have phone numbers. I just have their address. All right. So now I got whatever it was, 600 people or something, whatever the number was. So super dorky. I write a letter. Hi, I'm Rich Weidel. I got this little mortgage company. I want to build a national mortgage company. I need a head of sales. I'm looking for somebody that can build and wants to take over the world together and blah, 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 blah. I went to Staples and bought perforated business card sheets. You know what I'm talking about? And mail merged it. I ran it through our little color printers and printed. So for like Mark, it would have said, it was a Princeton mortgage business card. I mean, it was so rinky dink, you know, like national head of sales, Princeton mortgage, right? So like I printed it up and I stapled it to the letter and I sent them out. Shut the door. Right? So I get this phone call back from a guy in Pittsburgh. I'm like, I go to my assistant at the time. I was really upset. I was like, we cannot be wasting money sending letters to Pittsburgh. You know, what was the stamp? 38 cents, 45 cents. It's like, we can't afford this. I'll talk to the guy. Hire him. Matt Joy. Stumbled in the wholesale business. Probably made like $8 million in wholesale last couple of years. Mark Gordon. So, and I can go on and on. But what I hope you're hearing is the model that I have used. So then at Princeton Mortgage, right? Things aren't, you know, whatever, we're not doing a huge amount of loans right now. But if you look at it, using this model, we went from $1 million in revenues in 2018 to $34 million in revenues in 2020, making us the 502nd fastest growing company, all companies in America, right? Well, and we're still doing 25 million in revenues, right? So we're down, but it's still, if you look from $1 million to 25 million in a couple of years, it's like, whoa. It's this model, right? Now, everything else you got to do right. Fulfillment, technology, product, pricing, all that stuff, right? And you guys are good at that. it doesn't matter. It will not earn you any business. That's what you have to do to keep the business, but it won't earn the business. So what time do we go till today? Let me make sure I time this properly. All right, we got a little time left. Does it go till 10? I'm going to pause here before we start to get into some tactics. Thoughts, questions, any comments that people want to bring up? It's lonely if I talk the whole time. All right. Am I scary?
No.
Thank you, Woody.
I don't know. This is inspiring.
So what's that?
Jose, it's not boring. It's inspiring. I find this fascinating. It can be done.
Yeah, look, I was desperate and didn't know what I was doing. So I never had time on my side, right? So I don't think I was special. I was just like, oh shit. Like I've always worked for companies that were like on the verge of, I love building, right? So they're always on the verge of like running out of cash, gonna not have enough time. Like I've always been attracted to that. So
real life stories resonate.
I appreciate you sharing. So I talked to a guy yesterday, I interviewed him. 18 million guy this year, it was 25 million the year before. And let me maybe this will resonate with you. So, I've been getting coached for 10 years. I've worked with Phil Treadwell, and I've done all this stuff, and I've got an amazing LOA, and I've got a processor, and I got all right? Like, yeah, man, but you're doing 18 million. So I'm not going to say that's not impressive. It's great. Good. If you're happy with that. But you're telling me that you know everything. You've got an amazing system, an amazing process, and you should be doing 50 million, and you don't understand why not, right? So you guys ever run across the people that have read every book, they know everything, and they have all the answers, but they don't translate it into results? You know what I mean? It's one of these guys. So I asked him a couple of questions. And I'll tell you, this has been bringing people to their knees. And I don't mean to, right? Like, that's not the goal. But maybe that pain, maybe I'm going to introduce a little bit of the pain here, is what helps people to motivate to think differently. So I said, cool. So you're a professional loan officer in your area. Yeah. Said, what would be the minimum number of transactions that a realtor does that you'd want to go after, right? So now I'm talking about defining your pool, right? If you're going to go after realtors, what do you guys think? Minimum number of annual buy sides a realtor should do that's going to be worth your time? That says 5. Anybody else?
6.
6. 12.
As long as they're low maintenance.
Yeah, look, I think it depends by the market, your average loan size to some extent, but those are the right kind of numbers. I use 8. Not a good or bad number. But yes, 5, 6, 8, 12, depending on your loan size. So here's this guy that knows everything. And I say to him, I said, how many realtors in your market, right? I knew what his market was, do more than 8 buy sides a year? Okay. Does anybody know the answer for their market? Anybody on this call?
I do now, but kind of cheating.
Yeah, you already went through this. You can't cheat. I did this with the branch manager training. Okay. I'm giving you guys what I believe is like the greatest gift in your sales career. You think of yourself as a professional that's an expert in your market, that knows what's going on. And you have no idea how big the pond is that you're swimming in.
Right.
At all.
Correct.
That makes you, and here's the good news, an amateur. And here's why it's the good news. Because it means that there's room for you to behave differently that will lead to better outcomes, right? Here, I get this a lot. I have to deal with our warehouse lenders and investors. Everybody's looking at the financials. And so we have year-end renewals for everything. So Joe and I are doing it. And I kept hearing, Rich, we're like, struggling to break even and losing money, right? So you're like, oh, it's so bad. And they're like, Rich, I got to tell you, really, you should be proud. You're doing better than 90% of the companies we work with. That's really scary. Because it means, like, if you're already at the top of the class, it's how much better can you get? So it's really, if they had told me, hey, Rich, I got to tell you something, you're in the bottom 20% from performance, Princeton mortgages, I would hurt my soul, but I'd go, okay, cool. Now I just got to figure out what those other guys are doing, and I can improve, right? So the fact that you don't know who the realtors are in your market that are doing deals and how many there even are should make you feel a little sick to your stomach, right? Maybe there's feelings of anger at yourself or frustration. Great. It's the thing that you can start to know. So let me walk you through what I would do. Tomorrow I'm on the ground, I'm a loan officer. You have access through your branch managers to the MMI data that will tell you every realtor in your marketplace. Okay, no matter what market you're in, I'll tell you that the number of realtors that do more than 8 buy sides a year, 8 or more buy sides. Let me take somebody who doesn't know this, meaning I didn't already do this with you. Take a guess. The number of realtors that do 8 or more buy sides in your market. Just somebody take a guess.
Less than 100.
Okay, Woody says less than 100. Anybody else?
32.
32. Okay. Anybody else?
100.
I'll say 50.
50.
Yeah, 50.
So you guys are good. I've had people tell me, real loan officers doing 40 million, 1,000, 2,000.
Boy.
Right? Yeah, it's between 80 and 150 in every market, give or take. Right? That's it. That's it. Now there might be 800. There might be 1,000 or 2,000 licensed realtors and 600 that do business and 80 that do more than 8 buy sides. Okay. So that, by the way, this is all written in the Princeton selling system too, right? It's all in there, the math. I've run it for multiple counties in there. So now your world becomes, and by the way, out of that 80, you start to go through and kick this guy out and this person this and whatever. So you get down to like 50. So now there's 50 realtors that matter. That's it. That's it. How many weeks in a year are there? Okay. So what we do is we define the pool of people we want to work with. It's all in MMI. Your branch managers all have access to it. You define the pool, okay? And it's so much smaller than most people think. But if you haven't defined it, you are by definition an on-accident salesperson. Does anybody disagree with that? All right. So what we could do, it's like, I am an on-accident salesperson, and I commit to be different in 2023. Okay. And so, to me, this is the biggest thing. Rainmakers fish where the big fish are, right? You have all the data. By the way, and it's so much easier than when I used to do this stuff. In MMI, there's emails, phone numbers, addresses, it's like all there. The amount of money that I spent, time and energy building up databases that now you can for $20 a month get, all the stuff's there. So then, here's the strategy. You start having constant contact with them, right? Through passive ways is my recommendation, right? Mail merges, right, are great. Send out mail merge emails weekly. You should be, by the way, the company sending content out. Does everybody know when they receive company generated content from people? Fine, it's better than nothing, but it's certainly not, right? But through mail merge, you can send something every week. If you don't know what to say, there's automated AI tools now, chat GPTs. Anybody heard of that yet? Put Google on red alert. You literally like write me an email to realtors about why they should work with me, and it'll produce the content for you. Chat GPT, it's free. Start emailing. Text them. You know, I do a lot of auto texting now using Sales Messenger. I used to do it for free. I hired a failed realtor, a kid that was trying to become a realtor, for like $8 an hour. And he'd come to the office. I'd give him my cell phone. And I'd give him a spreadsheet. And I'd say, add all these people in his contacts and text them this message. And he'd come in 3 days a week. And it cost me, what, $100 a week or less. And he would text everybody. That has grown into now I use Sales Messenger. And I do tons and tons of auto texting. By the way, Sales Messenger is like $20 a month. Anybody can use it. Anybody can go set it up, and you can do that if you want to do it. Email and text. The purpose of this is to get somebody to say, yeah, hey, Ernie, hey, Joe, hey, Woody, I'll have a conversation with you. That's it. You're just stay top of mind, stay top of mind, stay top of mind. For them to say, I'll have a phone call. On the phone call, and we'll train, we'll keep training all this stuff. On the phone call, what's the goal of the phone call? You finally get one of these 50 realtors on the phone. You've been emailing, texting, writing them hand notes. Like, yeah, I'll talk to you. What's the goal of that call?
Book a meeting.
What's that?
Book a meeting.
Book a meeting.
Yeah.
Book a meeting. Book a meeting. This Thursday? No. How about Friday? No. How about next Wednesday? No. So some stats I have. Let me find this real quick. All right, this is good stuff here. 87% of salespeople miss their goal. 72% of salespeople never ask for the close, and 48% of salespeople only make 2 follow-up calls. So if I was to look at why I've been able to outperform people who've been doing it for way longer than me, again, I build a database of what I want. All right, I want to work for a real estate private equity firm in New York. Okay, I want to work for an investment banking firm in New York. Okay, I got to lease up a hair salon. Okay, I want to hire new real estate agents. I'm always defining who I want and then figuring out a way to get in front of them. And then I ask for the close. Forever. I just keep asking for it. Never stop. And I think that's like most people don't do it because they're ego and they're embarrassed. They don't want to this. They're, You know what I also found? Top salespeople, like realtors, respect it. They don't want to work with some. Now I get email, like if you've called and emailed and texted me or whatever, like 8 times, all right, I'll take the meeting. The guys that send me 1 email and I never hear from them again, amateur. I don't want to work with that guy. You know, vendors and stuff like that. So you book the meeting. Okay. It's a breakfast meeting. So before the day gets busy, it's cheap, it's easy. Everybody likes breakfast, right? What's the goal of the breakfast meeting? Get a referral. Hey, you got to close. Hey, listen, you're somebody I'd really like to work with. I think we could do, needs analysis, the whole thing, all that. But at the end, you got to ask for, hey, what would it take for me to get a referral from you and show you what I can do? Okay. Now, once you've gone through that sales process, right, then you don't auto text and auto email that person anymore because that's a real prospect, right? So the auto texting, auto emailing, mass stuff is for your lead pool that you've built, right? And that's to get somebody that says, I'll talk to you. Then once you've talked to them, right, now that's a prospect, right? That's somebody, because if they took a phone call and had a meeting with you, what does it mean? They're open to doing business.
They're interested.
They know you're a loan officer, right? Like, oh, I want to be your friend. No, right? We want to do business together. And so if they take a phone call or have a meeting, they're open to it. So here's the secret to it. You have to use your CRM every single time you do something with that person, right? Now that they're a prospect, you book your next thing. You put the task in, right? And this is the art of selling. You get done the breakfast, send them a follow-up text the next morning, or give them a phone call in a week, or send them those materials, or follow up on this. And then when you do that next thing, you log into your CRM and you book the next thing. And then what you build is this flywheel where you don't have to remember what to do, right? You just open up your CRM every morning, your total expert, you go to your tasks and you'll see. So, okay, I had breakfast with this guy. I put a follow-up in 2 weeks to call up and ask for a referral. Hey, really enjoyed breakfast, man. You got any loans we can work on together? No? Okay, cool. It's okay if I follow up with you in 2 weeks. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Beth. Boom. Follow up within 2 weeks. That's the system. Define who you want to work with. Build a passive way of getting after them. Don't let technology get in the way. If you have to hire your kid, your nephew, or your this, a real estate agent, give them your phone and say, put these contacts in and text these people. And you're going to come in every Friday from 9 till noon and do it. Cool. Emails, mail merge, very simple. Spreadsheet, Google how to mail merge, send them content. You don't know how to write the content, go to ChatGPT and it'll write the content for you. They reach out to you somehow, phone call, get a meeting, get a referral, and then every time you talk to them, book a follow-up task, book a follow-up task, book a follow-up task. So this is a very kind of both high level and tactical introduction to how I've been able to scale sales personally, is just using this model every single time. And the good thing about this model is it's on purpose. Now, most people get sad when they spend, all day writing that perfect email, sending it to them, and then nobody responds, and then they stop. I just keep sending them and keep sending them and keep sending them. And then eventually it works. You've got to keep doing. Let me show you something real quick. I got onto somehow, I love this. Let's see if I can figure this out. Oh, it's my other email. Hold on. All right. I got onto an email list for Grant Cardone. Okay, you guys probably know of him, and if you don't, he annoys me, but his sales, he's a good salesman. Look at this. 7:18 this morning, 6:38 this morning, 1:22 this morning, 6:21 yesterday, 7:19 yesterday, Monday. Each of these is one day, right? Sunday, right? Saturday, 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 Friday, 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 Thursday, 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 Wednesday, 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 Tuesday, 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 Monday. That's what massive activity looks like. So 4 options. I believe that most salespeople fail or don't achieve their results for one reason and one reason only. They don't take enough action. And I'm a little bit lazy. I've been unwilling to just cold call all the time. So I've always built systems for myself to get people that want to talk to me. Now, if somebody wants to talk to me, I'm like all day long, right? So there's 4 options that you have. Do nothing. Retreat, right? So do even less. Take normal levels of action, which is what I think based on kind of the interactions is what's going on here. Most of us are taking normal levels of action, being on accident. Or you take massive action. And so your results this year will be completely tied to, do you take massive action? I'm not saying my way is the only way, but I'm telling you it's worked for me in like every single situation I've been in. Very simple. Define who you want. Get them in a CRM. Stay in constant contact with them. Then when one of those people's like, hey, yeah, I'll talk to you, you use that opportunity to book a meeting. You book the meeting and you ask for the deal. And then you constantly are scheduling the next follow-up, next follow-up, next follow-up, next follow-up. And by the way, sometimes it might be quarterly, right? Like sometimes it might be weekly, those next actions. That's the art of selling, depending on where is this person in the buying cycle. All right. Let's open it up. Any questions, thoughts, shares?
Rich, that initial email that you send it to people, that mass email, how often? I mean, I know that Condon can send it to you 2 or 3 times a day. Would it be weekly, daily?
I don't know the right answer, Eddie. I really don't. I think there's different methodologies. I like to make sure, at a minimum, I want to, in my passive lead pool, I want to be in contact with them at least once a week. Now, I might be leaving a lot on the table. Maybe I should be doing it 3 times a day, right? And I'll continue to play with that, but at a minimum once a week. And that's also sustainable for me. I write my own content. I think it's important to do that. Dan Cooley does help me out, and Courtney helps me out for sure. Right? I don't want to take all the credit, but I actively participate in my content generation. Here's the other thing I've learned. It doesn't really matter what you say. Share a video clip you're interested in. Say, hey, did you see that game? Or, hey, here's the training I just went through, and like I want to share some ideas with you, or just whatever. Hey, following up again, would love to get scheduled, phone called. Hey, so it's usually what I do is like 3 shares, just like kind of cool things that I'm, by the way, things that I'm into, right? Like that are real for me. Hey, saw this, what do I, and then 1 ask. Hey, can we get that meeting? Hey, can we get that meeting? Now I'll tell you, sometimes it's embarrassing because I'll get a text message back, and it's like 25 text messages from me. You know, I'll open it up and look at it. Hey, what's going on? Wonder if you have any time this week to schedule a call. Rich Weidel, CEO of Princeton Orange. Hey, Happy New Year. Hey, whatever. 25, no responses. And then all of a sudden, hey, Rich, can we schedule a call this week? Right? So the thing is, I think that holds most people back is they're too embarrassed to like keep doing it. You just got to keep doing it and get rejection proof and not worry about it. And realize that the goal is to be the person that they think of when they decide that maybe they should explore different lender options. Or maybe you just overwhelm them because, you know what, you're hustling more than the loan officer they're working with over there. Right? But you're not, here's the thing, you got to realize they're not working with you today. So experiment. You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. And good salespeople respect that you're asking for their business and you're doing it constantly. 100%. I really respect Grant Cardone because he's doing more than me. And I'm like, oh man, maybe that's what it takes. Maybe I got to get to that point, right? I respect it. The person that emails me once, oh, Rich, can we schedule a call? No way. All right, what else?
How much does MMI cost a month? Access to that?
I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks or something. Nothing is
$25 a month.
expensive. Like that's the other thing is that and like anything that you'd want to do, you could do on your own. But I also recommend starting manually. Mail merges and sending the text messages. And then if you're like, cool, I'm really going to commit to this, right? You can start getting more automated with things and you can learn more about it and build it. But you're only talking about 50 people, right? So like in a month, if you did 12 a week, like just you started there. I'm going to reach out to all 12 of these people, 12 a week every month and started there. But step 1, you got to define the realtors that you want to go after. Your branch managers know how to do it, can help you. Jamie Trissler. Yeah, I like that. Jamie Trissler know how to do it, right? We've been offering this for a long time. People don't take us up on it, right? And so that's the goal of my meeting now is like, hey, if you don't know who the realtors are in your market that are doing more than 6 or 8 buy sides, you're an amateur. Great. Go solve that problem first. Get a list and a spreadsheet of those realtors. Then tackle the next bottleneck is, how am I going to stay in contact with these people? What am I going to say to them? And what do I, right? You answer all those things. Step 1 is you got to have a list of realtors that you want to go after. Start there. All right.
Hey, Rich, quick question.
Yeah.
It's Craig. I'm brand new, obviously.
Yep.
And I've already got, or Andrew's helped me put that list together. But my question is, it sounds like when we get that list, we go with the passive marketing to them. But should I not be using my power hours every day to go after that same list? Or do you call first or do passive marketing to them? Both?
Anything, right? It almost doesn't matter as long as you're doing it. Now, for me, I've never been good at cold calls. Like I have a really hard time cold calling. I find it difficult to connect with somebody when I'm interrupting their day. I'm not saying don't do it. It's not something for me. So I prefer to do massive amounts of outbound reach out until they say they want to talk to me, and then I talk to them. But I'm not saying that that's like the model you have to use. Call them. If you're willing to call them, do it. There's been moments when I've been really desperate. Oh yeah, I make 50 phone calls a day, right? I have found it not sustainable for me. So, but if you're in like build desperate mode, shit, I got no loans. I would do nothing but call realtors all day until I have loans, right? And then you can move to the passive piece of it, right? So it depends on, if you need to turbocharge, then absolutely. It's all about the amount of activity that you're doing. And then asking for the close and staying after it, right? And not petering out after 2 calls like everybody else.
All right, thanks.
All right, guys, I got to scoot. Thanks for being here. I hope it was helpful.